Hall had her arms up, vertical. That was not a foul, and Sabrina initiated the contact. These referees are so incompetent. They're ridiculous. That shouldn't have been a foul first.
In what feels like yet another chapter in the WNBA's apparent effort to sideline the Indiana Fever and their rising star Caitlin Clark, Saturday night's 90-88 loss to the New York Liberty put the league's inconsistent officiating and favoritism on full display. From questionable calls to the dismissive attitude of players like Sabrina Ionescu, who seemed to benefit from the referee's selective oversight, the game highlighted deep issues within the league. As Fever head coach Stephanie White passionately called out the disrespect toward her team, it became painfully clear once again. The WNBA appears intent on denying Indiana the recognition and success their talent and loyal fan base have earned.
Sabrina Ionescu really was not a factor in this game, but she had a lot to say at the end, bro. Ultimately, the WNBA referees made it their point and their business to help them beat the Indiana Fever. I don't give a damn what nobody says, bro. If it wasn't for the referees, Sabrina Ionescu and her team would have lost, bro. Simple as that. Sabrina Ionescu
poised for what should have been a thrilling conclusion to a hard-fought clash between two elite teams, the Indiana Fever, riding high at 2-1 and fueled by the momentum of having the most electrifying player in women's basketball, took on the New York Liberty. But what unfolded wasn't just a game. It felt like yet another referendum on the WNBA's priorities. Was this a league committed to fair, competitive basketball, or one increasingly driven by manufactured drama and selective favoritism aimed at holding certain teams back?
But I will just say the lopsided officiating was absolutely insane. The New York Liberty were at the line 32 times to the Fever's 15, and it was just so obvious. Now, I get calling fouls, I get not calling fouls, but in this instance, there were similar fouls that were not getting called on the New York Liberty that were going towards the Fever. If you're gonna call every ticky-tacky foul, okay, call it, but call it for both teams.
With the score tied at 88 and just under 12 seconds remaining, basketball fans around the world anticipated a showcase of elite, clutch performance. Instead, they witnessed a different kind of masterclass, one in how WNBA officiating can transform a competitive game into a scripted drama. In this production, it seemed the outcome was already decided, and the Indiana Fever were never cast in the role of the victors.
Fever this season have a discrepancy minus 31 when it comes to free throws. That doesn't seem right. And Stephanie White, to her credit, she didn't take long to calling out the nonsense. Stephanie White, let's see what you got to say.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games.
In a league that claims to value competitive integrity, yet turns a blind eye as players wage unchecked social media battles for months, fans were about to witness the latest chapter in an unsettling pattern. The referees, once again, added fuel to the growing perception that the Indiana Fever are not to be allowed success on their own merits. What followed was a sequence so blatantly one-sided that even the most casual basketball viewer could see the bias playing out in real time.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, please subscribe. With the game tied and destiny hanging in the balance, Caitlin Clark did what she does best. She took control, driving to the basket with the fearless determination that has made her must-watch television. Clark created a scoring opportunity before making the kind of high IQ play that separates the elite from the merely good. She found Dana Borner with a pinpoint pass for what should have been a game-winning layup, a moment that perfectly showcased Clark's court vision and unselfish play, hallmarks of the most complete point guard in the league. But apparently, in the WNBA's version of basketball, defenders are permitted to make contact with shooters, as long as they are wearing the right jersey. Natasha Cloud's block on Borner came with what any honest observer would recognize as clear contact. In virtually any other game, involving any other team, that's a foul. Yet the officiating crew said nothing. The silence wasn't just frustrating, it was deafening. A no call that said more than words ever could about the double standard that now feels as routine as Caitlin Clark selling out arenas.
The Fever were on the wrong end of some whistles, it seemed, in this game, and it's seemingly been that way for much of the season, and it's been a recurring theme where there's a level of physicality allowed against them and they're not allowed to reciprocate on the other end. That particularly, of course, goes for Caitlin Clark. So
This wasn't just a missed call. It was a message. A message that says the Indiana Fever aren't just playing against their opponents on the court, but also against a system that seems determined to hold them back. The kind of contact that draws immediate whistles for other teams is suddenly deemed fair play when it happens against the Fever, especially when it means denying Caitlin Clark and her teammates the wins they've rightfully earned. The pattern has become too blatant to ignore, almost insulting the intelligence of basketball fans everywhere. Every contested shot against Indiana magically turns into a clean defensive play. Every assertive drive to the basket by Clark is somehow an offensive foul. And every physical encounter seems to result in the Fever being punished, as if simply playing hard, competitive basketball is a violation when done in Indiana uniforms.
That ending was ridiculous. I swear these referees is taking away try to take everything away from the Fever this year, bro. That was a ridiculous ending. First of all, Sabrina didn't get fouled. That was bull crap. Second, why didn't Stephanie White challenge that?
But if you thought the no call on Borna's layup was the peak of officiating malpractice, you haven't been paying attention to how the WNBA seems to operate when it comes to the Indiana Fever. What happened next was so egregiously one-sided it wouldn't pass in a middle school gym, let alone in a professional basketball arena. Sabrina Ionescu, who appears to benefit from a whistle that follows her like a personal assistant, was gifted 2 free throws on what can only be described as a phantom foul against Lexi Hull. The so-called contact was minimal, barely a brush, routine by playoff basketball standards, and calling it a foul required either total incompetence or willful manipulation. Yet this is what passes for officiating when the WNBA decides certain narratives and certain players matter more than fairness. Ionescu stepped to the line with the kind of confidence that doesn't just come from skill. It comes from knowing the game is being tilted in your favor by forces far beyond the hardwood. She sank both shots, putting the Liberty up 90-88 with about 3 seconds left, effectively stealing a game the Fever had earned through grit, talent, and poise. And yet, the theft wasn't finished. There was still time for one more act of larceny, one so blatant it would make even the most seasoned con artist blush.
If I'm Coach Stephanie White, I am challenging that foul on Lexi Hull with 2 seconds to go. What do you have to lose? You still have, you had your challenge. Use it. I didn't see anything on the replay. Felt pretty clean to me. I would never let Sabrina go to the line with 2 seconds left. Never.
The Fever called timeout to advance the ball, setting the stage for what should have been a clean look for their superstar to tie the game or win it outright. Caitlin Clark took the inbound pass just beyond the three-point line, the same spot from which she's delivered countless game winners throughout her legendary career. But as she rose for what could have been another iconic moment in an already historic season, Natasha Cloud stripped the ball away in a play that, by any objective standard, was a clear foul, yet the whistle never came. The sound that should have signaled a foul was replaced by silence. Silence from officials who, in the game's most crucial moment, seemed to forget the rules of basketball altogether. Clark's reaction said it all. The look of disbelief, the immediate appeal to the referees, the clear indication that contact had occurred. But in the WNBA's version of reality, fouls apparently only exist when they support the preferred narrative. And that narrative clearly doesn't include the Indiana Fever winning games through talent, teamwork, and clutch execution. This wasn't just another missed call. It was a deliberate blind eye turn to obvious contact. Contact that, for any other player on any other team, would have meant a trip to the free throw line with the game on the line. The referee's silence in that moment spoke louder than any whistle could have. It sent a message, plain and simple. No matter how well the Fever play, no matter how hard they fight, there are forces in this league seemingly committed to ensuring their road to success remains unfairly obstructed.
If you're going to call that Sabrina Ionescu move a foul, Caitlin Clark did the same exact thing, and you didn't call that a foul. Even the Aaliyah Boston moment, what she fakes, Jonquel Jones jumped on her back. All right, backpack style. Jumps on her back. And granted, she stopped and repositioned and shot the ball, whatever the case may be. She was still on her back. Like, they're not calling any of these things for the Indiana.
Sabrina Ionescu's reaction to the no call was perhaps even more revealing than the silence of the officials. Instead of acknowledging the fortunate break that had just handed her team an unowned victory, she exuded the kind of smug indifference that has come to define players who routinely benefit from the league's selective enforcement of the rules. Her dismissive demeanor in the face of what was clearly a foul spoke volumes. She knew exactly what had happened, and she didn't care who saw it. If there were any lingering doubts about the legitimacy of the Fever's frustrations, head coach Stephanie White erased them in her post-game press conference. Her reaction wasn't the outburst of a sore loser. It was the righteous fury of a leader who had just watched her team be systematically undermined by officials seemingly more invested in orchestrating outcomes than ensuring fair competition. Her words cut through the noise, exposing a truth that's becoming harder and harder to ignore. The Indiana Fever aren't just battling opponents on the court. They are fighting a league apparatus that appears unwilling to let them succeed on their own merits.